Hi and welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 14 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis and the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. Were you able to attend the Sew Sustainable Fair in London last month? If you weren't, would you have liked to have been there? Well, today's episode is kind of an audio diary in which you'll be able to come along to the event, listen to some of the awesome conversations I had with the organisers, helpers and businesses in attendance, and hear some of my ramblings as I travel to and from the venue. So stick around for that. Apologies if my voice is a bit weird today. Hay fever is kicking my bum very hard this week, so I'm sounding and feeling pretty rough, to be honest. But I hope that you're doing okay, though. Are you up to much sewing at the moment? Part of my Me Made May pledge was to do a minimum of 15 minutes sewing per day. I've managed to stick to that. And often I've actually ended up sewing for much longer. So my patchwork denim quilted jacket project is really starting to take shape. As for sustainability wins, I'm claiming this as a win, although I can't claim it as something that I set up personally. And that is drying laundry outside. Now, obviously, this is not for everyone, but I'm mainly mentioning it in case it provides a nudge to some people who are able to dry their laundry outside, at least some of the time, but keep forgetting to get a washing line or a clothes horse or something like that. Tumble drying clothing that could be dried outside is a massive waste of energy, and the additional agitation that your clothes get mean that they wear out quicker. So if you can, at all, even some of the time, hang your clothes up to dry, preferably outside, then please do. I know that I am super lucky to have a small garden that already had a washing line put up when we moved in. I didn't have any outside space at all for many years, even when I had two very small kids. But I've actually never had a tumble dryer either. And now that I can hang things out to dry outside, it feels like a total luxury. I want to add an additional tip to people who do have some outside space to dry clothes. Unless your space is covered, get a rain app on your phone. I'm not just talking about a weather app that gives you a general forecast. I'm talking about a rain app that specifically tells you when it's likely to rain down to the minute. I have an Apple phone and I use a free app called Rain Today, which works pretty well. And I made my best mate download an Android equivalent for this purpose also. This is obviously really useful places like where I live, where the weather can change wildly throughout the day. This week, I want to extend my thanks to a lovely individual named Claire, who signed up this week to support the podcast each month via Patreon. You are a star. In case you weren't sure, let me explain that this podcast is put together at my dining table, and right now in my bed, with the stringiest of shoestring budgets. Thanks to the incredible patrons who give their monthly support, I'm able to cover the costs of making the podcast. Plus, I can pay myself a teensy wage for the many hours it takes to make a weekly podcast. But the amount that I get is nowhere near minimum wage currently. If you enjoy and appreciate this podcast, please consider offering your monthly support via Patreon. It'll make this whole endeavour more viable in the longer term. You can sign up for any amount that makes sense for you. Find the link to sign up in the show notes and in the episode description, which is under the title of this episode in whatever app you're listening to this in right this very second. Okay, back to today's episode. As I say, we're going to hear some recordings I made to, from and during the Sew Sustainable Fair that I was asked to speak at last month. I'll hopefully be dropping the talk itself at some point as well. Today, you'll hear from the organiser of the event, Sarah Richards, who also runs Olive Road London, a vintage fabric purveyor. It was awesome to hear how the event came to be, and she gives some great tips to others wishing to set something similar up themselves closer to where they live. You'll also hear from previous podcast guest Rebecca Evans-Merritt, who was there helping out. We had a little catch-up about her recent sewing projects and her growing endeavours. Plus, you'll hear me chit-chat with Yvette, who creates Stash Hub, a sewing organisation app. She explains what the benefits of using the app can be to make the most of your existing resources and even reduce your spending overall. Plus, there's the lovely Louise from Ethel and Joan, who makes amazing buttons, buckles, pin holders and jewellery. We spoke about how she got started in the button making game and how sustainability plays a role in her business. During my conversation with Sarah, you'll hear her tell me about a couple of awesome sounding historical fiction books that are written by her friend Kate Thompson. I can report that I've bought The Secrets of the Singer Girls, and I'll tell you about it once it's arrived and I've had a chance to read it. Although don't hold your breath, because I don't find a lot of time for reading at the moment, and I've actually been reading the same book about octopuses for about 2 years. Plus, since speaking to a vet, I've downloaded the Stash Hub app myself and can subsequently say that it is really well designed. I haven't got stuck in yet to adding all my fabric and patterns and such, but I have been using the feature where you get to add the measurements for all the people that you regularly sew for. I find that I tend to take my family's measurements, like I write them on a scrap of paper and then almost immediately lose that scrap of paper. So it's great to have somewhere to note them down permanently. There's lots of lovely pictures and links in the show notes this week, so find those as you can with every episode's show notes at checkyourthread.com. Enjoy! Well, happy Earth Day! It is the 22nd of April 2023 and I am on a pier in the Thames. I've just taken a riverboat from London Bridge to go to the So Sustainable Fair. Turns out I got the wrong one. I've got to wait for another one. Just had to get off and I'm going to get on another one in a minute. But that was very interesting. So it's a river bus and it started out like kind of touristy thing. There's lots of people kind of, I imagine, on their holidays or going on a tour. And it stopped at Tower Bridge. And then it really kicked up and it really got a lick on. And I'm now at Canary Wharf waiting for the next one to go to the So Sustainable Fair, which is very exciting. I hope you're having a good Earth Day, whatever you're up to today. Well, that was very cool. Yeah, I am now at Mast House Terrace Pier in East London. I just got off the second boat, having got on the wrong one first of all. That was very cool. So I got the train up from the South Coast to London Bridge, and then I got the river bus, and you can just like tap on and off with your bank card, or if you had an Oyster, but you can't use a travel card. I just discovered. Yeah, don't know how much that costs. We'll find out. Well, that was a very cool way to commute to doing a talk. So it's a sunny day. I'm glad, because there's also an Extinction Rebellion massive event called The Big One happening today around Westminster, and I'm glad that it's not raining for all of those people who are doing their bit to get climate change and ecological crises on the agenda. So all the best to them. Right, I'm off to find where Craft Central is and hopefully get a coffee pretty soon. The boat was so fun. I would definitely do that again. I can't believe that was part of my commute.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the other people there were mainly tourists.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah.
But I love that, because then I feel like you're a tourist in your own city.
Yeah.
So you think, well, why should the tourists get all the good stuff?
Yeah, well, it's not my city, but do you know what? Because I grew up by the Thames, but in Essex.
Oh, yeah.
So it's been like a big part of my life, like throughout my childhood, and then in my 20s I moved back to Southend and lived really close to the sea for like a long time. And now I live close to the sea, but on the south coast. So it's always been a part of my life. And I was thinking, I don't know that I've ever actually travelled on the Thames. I love kind of East London, and my grandparents were Cockneys and grew up in East London, and my mum was born in London, so I kind of, yeah.
That's great. So you come back to your roots.
Yeah, and in fact, my nan was a seamstress. She was a seamstress in the war. She was in the reserved occupations, creating coats for soldiers.
Oh, amazing. Do you know where she worked?
No, I know that they lived near, like, Cambridge Road.
Yeah, Cambridge Heath Road. There were lots of factories along there.
Yeah, in Bethnal Green area.
Loads of factories along there.
I'll ask my mum.
Because the only reason I ask is my friend Kate Thompson, she writes a whole set of books set in East London during World War II.
Oh.
And her very first book is The Secrets of the Singer Girls, and it's all about women in World War II working in the rag trade.
Oh my goodness,
all around Bethnal Green.
I'm getting that. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, you'd absolutely love it. She's done that, and then I think she's done a prequel, which was The Secrets of the Sewing Bee. But she's got about 13 books, but they were her first kind of couple.
You know, like hearing my nan's story, because like I didn't know a lot of that stuff about her, and
it would be that experience. And also because Kate had so I help her out with some research sometimes, and so I've met a lot of the women she spoke to.
Oh wow!
So they actually worked in the rag trades, and luckily I got to meet them when she interviewed them.
Oh, amazing!
So even though her books are novels, they're like based on facts and people's real stories.
Yeah.
So we'd be living that experience. Well,
thank you for that tip. So where are we? Where are we right now?
We are in the Isle of Dogs, which some people know as the Docklands, but technically it's the Isle of Dogs. Literally like a stone's throw from the Thames, which is why we're talking about the Thames and getting the boat here.
And this is an amazing building. What did this was it a warehouse?
It was a forge. So it's a Victorian forge, and they built bridges, I believe.
Whoa.
So some of the structures are still in here, like some of the industrial old structures are still in here, as you can hear, because we've just been talking. I love history. Yeah, so it's great to work in a really old industrial building.
Absolutely, but we are in a kind of fabricated inner part, which is really cool because it has you can still see the original structure really clearly, can't you?
Yeah.
But it's not freezing cold as well.
Yeah, and we've got these pods built in the so it was a big empty space, and then so it's Craft Central, which is a charity, and they've built these pods, all different sizes, that then creatives can come and rent. And so, you've got like a clean white space, basically, that you can then adapt to make your own.
Yeah.
And there's a heater, which is good.
Yeah.
But it's great because you can get on with your work, but at the same time, if your door's open, you chat to your neighbours, and, they might be doing jewellery or graphic design, animation, like so many different things.
Cool. So it's all creatives at different stages, presumably, of their business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got the smallest studio, cause, sort of starting out, but then you can kind of build up to a bigger studio. Yeah, and it's just, and with sort of collaboration. So today we're at the So Sustainable Fair, but there are other people who have got studios here also sort of collaborating, doing workshops, and got a stand, and we'll kind of like help each other out, really, which is great.
It's so nice. So where did the idea for the So Sustainable Fair come from?
I suppose I've been thinking about it for a while. I've done some of the bigger shows, and I think I was always conscious when you're there that it is a lot about selling a lot of cheap things quickly, and that that's
recouping your funds back, or your outgoings really quick.
And a lot of the other stands, and this isn't a criticism, but a lot of the other stands, I suppose it's kind of the commercial sense of the sewing, and I just felt that actually there wasn't really an area of anywhere being particularly sustainable. There was definitely different businesses doing it, but I remember talking to the organisers and saying, well, can't we have like a special area? But they didn't want to do that for different reasons. So I think the idea came for that, to actually sort of specialise and encourage people to sew sustainably. It's something I'm passionate about, even if you can't do it all of the time, just like little pieces and little changes you can make.
Yeah.
And so to make it easier for people, I wanted to sort of provide a space that like everyone here, all the traders here, all have like sustainability as the forefront of their business. So it just means, coming here, you haven't got to do that thing of checking, oh, okay, is this sustainable, where's this come from? Or you can be assured that everyone here who's selling products today, they've already thought about that for you, basically.
Yeah. So when did you have the idea initially, and how long has it taken to bring it to fruition?
I probably had it about 2 years ago.
Oh, right.
But I think it's just taken a while to probably just sort of have the confidence to say, yeah, I can do this.
Did you have this space back then, in 2 years ago?
No, I think I've been here just under 2 years.
So that's a big piece of the puzzle, isn't it? Finding the right space.
Yeah, definitely. And there's already been quite a few sustainable events on here, and that probably did give me the encouragement.
Yeah. So how did you decide who you wanted to invite to come and sell here or do a workshop here?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I'd already built quite a good network from doing the other bigger shows, kind of chatting to like-minded businesses and knowing, you know, that they've got their sustainable credentials. So I asked initial kind of like 4 or 5 if they wanted to join me, and they straight away said yes, which was great. And then we just needed a few extra. So really through them, someone might say, oh, you know, about... So I know, like, Louise from Ethel and Jones said that she knew Tanya from Bonella Fabrics. So then we kind of worked it out. And so Nikki from Missy Mop, we'd been chatting a while, because she also sort of said, oh, you know, we need something that... So she sells dead sort of fabric and haberdashery. And she also encouraged me to say, because she'd done an event down in Hastings, so she said, oh, we could do with one in London. So it was sort of encouragement with each other and, working together, really, which is really nice.
Yeah. Would you like to do more of these? Is that a kind of vague goal?
Definitely do this again. I mean, it's, you know, midday and it's our first one, but so far
it's soon to say.
Yeah, but so far it's gone really well. We've been really overwhelmed.
You said when you turned up that there was a queue.
There was a queue. We sold out. We asked people to register. It was a free event. We asked people to register because we do have to sort of be careful of numbers in the space. Was overwhelmed that we sold out. So that was amazing. I think it just shows how keen people are now to think about sustainability in their sewing, which is like really encouraging.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's quite hard to get people to the Isle of Dogs or the Docklands. They sort of in their head think it's quite far, but I mean, you know, it's great you come on the boat today.
Yeah,
so
you could take the boat.
yeah. So, you know, once people realise actually it's quite easy to get to, then that was really good, kind of getting people to come down and visit. So some people come from quite far away, which is really nice of them.
Yeah. But speaking of far away, like when I put up on Instagram that I was coming here, I had a lot of people message me going, oh, I wish that there was one of these in the Northeast, or I wish there was one of these in wherever they live. So there's obviously a real hunger more broadly. So would you like to see more sewing with sustainability that's focused events popping up around the country?
Yeah, definitely. So Sharon from Maven Patterns is here today. Her business is based in Warwickshire, and she's joining a few around that area. So she's already involved in some, and I know Melissa from Simply Vintage Designs is in Cambridge, and she did one recently.
Oh, nice.
And they already had either sort of say they're ethical or sustainable. They have that element to their event, so it's definitely popping up, which is
it's happening.
Brilliant.
So look at listings near you.
Yeah, and I think kind of doing it in a similar way, sort of approaching it with other traders, like maybe find some traders or friends that you know want to trade.
Yeah, because everyone has their own network, don't they?
Exactly. I think that's a good way to start. So Nikki that I mentioned is in Hastings, and what she did at hers is almost like a bring and buy sale. So she actually got people to rent a table, I guess like a indoor boot sale, but focus on sewing. So rather than having other traders like me, like businesses, she actually got individuals who had their sewing supply and wanted to sort
so
of
it can
get rid
happen
of
at all
some
different
things.
levels. It doesn't have to be businesses.
No.
It can be literally a group of friends or people that go to the same sewing group or attend the same sewing class or something. It can be at all levels, can't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, it doesn't have to be like small businesses. And the other thing in the same space at Craft Central in January, I did a fabric swap that I was really pleased with how that went. And so I'm definitely encouraging people, because like you know, people say, oh, I wish there was one in my area, but it's like, well, we'll set one up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have
and there will be one in your area.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could literally be just a group of friends with some coffee, prosecco, whatever, just having a swap.
Yeah.
It hasn't got to be a big space.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I've got this space available, so I was able to do it, and we did have about 150 people, which was
amazing.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Nice in January as well, when no one's got any money. Let's swap what already exists. I mean, beyond the fact that obviously you're then keeping resources in use for longer, like that's really good, because I mean a lot of people are really struggling right now.
Yes.
And sewing can be a more expensive hobby. It doesn't have to be, and that's something obviously I explore on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I really like that. Let's make it so that people can do more sewing, but for less of an outlay as well.
Yeah, and people were really generous for what they bought. You know, really good quality fabric and patterns and magazines. You know, trims. There was so much.
Yeah. Did you take any stuff home? Or
I left it till right at the end. I did. I think that is a tip, that if you do your own fabric swap, before you do it, you need to find some areas to be able to get rid of the fabric sustainably. So I was left with probably like 2 big tables of fabric.
Okay.
But I had been warned that this would happen. So I'd already been in contact with charities before the event.
So what did you do? What charities were they that you...
So there's a local charity in East London, and they teach people to sew, but in terms of going actually to work in the textile industry,
right?
So that they've got employment, and they do get donations, but very small pieces of fabric,
right?
So anything over 2 meters, I say to them.
Nice.
And then there was someone from West London who's setting up her own sewing group. She come and collect all the magazines and the patterns.
Oh, lovely!
Along with her women's group, and then the smaller bits could go to different people. I just found on Instagram that make things to sell for charity.
Yeah.
And I kind of just posted out boxes to them. So
lovely.
Yeah, you have to kind of be organised before, so you know.
Otherwise, that'd be quite overwhelming. Like, I thought all this would go.
Exactly. You've got to find something to keep it, and obviously you don't want to throw it away. That's not the point of the fabric swap in the first place.
So, do you think a lot of the people that attended the fabric swap in January are probably here today, or will be coming here today?
Another great part of it, it's the same with the swap and today. You know, we've organised a small cafe so that people can sit and chat and, you know, make friends and chat about sewing. And let's face it, you don't always have the opportunity.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Well, this is so exciting. As we were discussing before, I'm going to be doing a talk in, I don't know, about a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Little bit nervous. It's going to be fine.
You'll be great.
And I'm also going to have a chat with some of your store holders as well.
Great.
So,
all right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Really looking forward to your talk.
Hello, Rebecca Evans Merritt. You're real.
I know. So nice to see you in person.
Hey, weren't you on that podcast? What was it?
Was that really great podcast? I think it's called Check Your Thread. Have you ever listened to it by any chance?
Sounds rubbish. What are you up to today?
So I am here on the door receiving people into the So Sustainable Fair.
Wearing one of the nicest dresses I've ever seen to do
Oh,
so.
thanks. Can you see the colour? It doesn't colour match quite at the back, but let's...
Why have you done the typical sewer thing of
I
immediately
know,
what's wrong with it?
This is wrong, so just look like... Yeah.
Accept the compliment. So, for those who can't see, i.e. everyone but me, what have you made? What are you wearing?
So I've got a Birgitta Helmersson zero waist dress, and it is in the lovely jacquard from Merchant & Mills.
So it's like, is it quilted?
It looks like it's quilted, but it's actually the weave of it that is like that.
So how did you get involved in the So Sustainable Fair?
So I know Sarah, who runs Olive Road, and so I helped out with the fabric swap.
Did you?
Yeah,
that sounded so much fun.
So good. Like, hopefully it's every year because it was great.
Did you offload a load of stuff and get loads of cool stuff?
Yes, exactly that. Came with a bag, took a bag. Yeah.
I mean, that's the point.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So I said I'd help out today. Yeah.
Awesome.
Helping.
So are you making anything at the moment?
So I just finished 2 projects which have been a bit like, so like a railroad stripe, denim 2-piece. And then I just did a refashion as well, which was like,
yeah.
So
what was the original fabric you used for that?
So it was like a 80s like double-breasted dress thing with like a gathered skirt that I'd already actually refashioned into like a little skirt,
right?
But that was a long time ago, and it did not fit at all. Like the waist would not do up. So I refashioned it into like a little, I guess you'd call it like loungewear. Not that I would ever lounge in such fancy clothes, but like shorts and a top, like I never know how to say it. That one, by Friday Pattern Company. So I just finished that, and also I did put my sewing machines away. I was just like, I just need a rest. I'm just going to take a rest now. So I'm not going to sew anything right now.
So you're embodying slow sewing by that.
Yes, exactly.
I've done some sewing.
Yes. No.
I'm not doing some sewing. Are you doing any other creative things? Are you doing any knitting or anything else?
No, knitting has gone way on the back burner. Like, I have a pair of socks that I've been knitting for, it's probably like 4 years at this point. Like, I'll do like a little bit and be like, okay, I can do this, and then go, no, I can't do this.
Oh, really? Don't tell me that. That was one of my goals this year, is to knit a pair of socks.
Yeah, but you can do it. Like, if you just, like, stick out and actually do it.
Well, actually just do it.
Yeah,
rather than leave it
yeah,
for
rather
free.
than just, like, think about it.
So are you doing any plant mothering at the moment? Because it's a good time of year for
I
plant
know.
mothering.
Oh my gosh, no,
parenting.
I'm not. Apart from like keeping my existing plants alive.
Okay.
But I seriously need to get my seedlings started, because last year I did quite a few. Like did tomatoes, you know. And then
You've got
this year I've
time.
done-
You've got time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. Because actually, at work, so I work in one of my jobs. We have a garden, so we've got like loads of seedlings, like really going. Like on Wednesday, we did like, yeah, we're doing loads of gardening. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go home and do this, and I went home and just sat on the sofa and didn't do anything. So like,
You have been gardening.
yeah, just not about
someone else's garden.
Exactly.
So where is it? Where is that work of yours?
Super close to where we are today, actually. So it's in Poplar.
Right.
I manage a community centre on an estate, and we've got like a big communal garden that we help to manage.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's really nice, and we do like lots of growing, and we're hoping to grow lots of food this year.
I love that. I mean, I literally love that.
Yeah.
Love it. Brilliant. Well, I'm going to go and have a chit chat at some other peeps, and I hope to see you soon.
Yes, for sure.
Hello, Yvette from Stash Hub.
Hello, Zoe.
What is Stash Hub?
So Stash Hub is a sewing organiser app available on Apple and Android. So it's basically like the one-stop shop to organise all your sewing supplies, your fabrics, your patterns, and then you compare them together to create projects.
That's very exciting. So how did you come to this? Like, what's your background?
So very handily, my husband is a software developer. So I started to sew around like 2020. You know,
Was
obviously.
that a lockdown hobby, or was that before?
Well, I'd started just before, and then
Right.
it was like, oh, so now I'm at home all the time, and I have loads of time and nothing to do. Luckily, I've got this brand new hobby. But
So
yeah,
really accelerated it and just
yeah,
got really into
definitely, and
it.
also like the online like sewing community as well. I found it was like so supportive, and it was like a way of socialising when you're sort of stuck at home. And so I just got like
Absolutely.
super into the community, and then like super into the sewing as well. And then, you know, as sort of more experienced sewists will know, you sort of accumulate a lot of stuff quite quickly because you have so many ideas. And
Especially when you begin and you're not necessarily super good at picking the right fabric for the right project or knowing how much to buy. It can be easy to end up with kind of the wrong stuff that you're not sure what to do with, or too much, or leftovers.
yeah, definitely. And like as a person, I like to sort of err on the side of caution as well. So I'll be like, right, I'm going to make a t-shirt. 2.5 meters of fabric. You know, you end up with too much, or then you're like, oh, actually, now I've got too much, and I have a weird remnant. So maybe I should make a different pattern, but I don't know what. And you just kind of end up with all this stuff where, like, maybe your original idea wasn't quite right, but you haven't quite figured out the new plan yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess Stash Hub's kind of just a way to have a record of all the stuff that you've already got,
Yeah.
and to sort of feel less overwhelmed by all of it. And then where you can save your projects as well, you know, like what you originally had in mind for that pattern. But like where it's an app, you can easily change it as well. It's not like you're going to have to rip a page out of your lovely notebook.
Good
you
point.
can just be like, actually, I'm not making trousers.
So how long did it take from the initial idea to the point where it's out there in the world?
Yeah, so quite a long time, because actually Doug made one version first, and then he decided to start making it from scratch because he didn't like it. But like because Doug is self-taught
Right.
on coding, so he's like, oh well, you know, a good way to learn is to have a project, which I'm sure a lot of sewing people will relate to as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he started it, and then it was like, you know what, I'm going to start again. So I think it must have taken about a year before we even like started telling people about it. And originally Doug was like, you know, I'll make this app for you. And then it was like, you know what, everyone needs this. Like everyone who sews.
Initially just for you.
Yeah, like, and because it's, you know, like I'm the original customer, but then obviously not everyone sews in the same way that I do. So it's
Sure.
been really interesting to get feedback from the community, and people be like, hey, why don't we, you know, add this new feature, or can you do this? And then we're like, okay, yeah,
So what are some of the
interesting.
features that you included as a result of some of that feedback?
So initially we didn't have projects when we like first launched like the beta version of the app. It was just fabrics and patterns.
Right.
And then people were like, when can we make projects? Like, because we were thinking, oh, people want to upload their stash first and then make the projects. But everyone's like, you know, they were really keen to like have somewhere to save their ideas.
Yeah.
So that was like an idea that we already had, but then we sort of pushed it up the timeline because everyone was so excited for it.
Yeah, and I think that's what's missing in a lot of other kind of ways of organising. Like, for example, lots of people are into spreadsheets. You know, people make spreadsheets and Excel sheets and stuff for work all the time, so it's something that they're used to. And that's fine for cataloguing things, isn't it? But then it's not got that extra element that, as sewers, is super useful.
Yeah, and like with a spreadsheet, I feel like it's sort of less visual than other methods. And like Stash Hub, it's all sort of, you know, you have a list of, and it's all the pictures, and then you can click into them and get them more information.
Yeah.
But then, you know, there's other things like Trello, which is quite popular with a lot of people, and that is visual. You've got the pictures, but it's hard to, like, link things together. Like, you can do it, but it's not quite what it was sort of designed for.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Stash Hub, we set up, you know, filters, so you've got the whole stash, and you can say, show me my fabric that I haven't made a project for yet.
Ooh.
Like, what's available?
Oh, that's
and
cool.
then you can see everything that you're, like, you know, that you need inspiration for. You know, if just looking at the whole list is too much.
Yeah.
There's a lot you can do with it, and it's because it's your stash and your own account, you can kind of use it how you like, and you know, just record the information that you're interested in.
Yeah. So how has your sewing changed since using Stash Hub?
Honestly, my sewing has gone down because I'm trying to like do a lot of Stash Hub things and like, you know, tell people about Stash Hub, try and make
irony,
try and make reels and stuff.
It's like, since I started making a podcast, I don't have very much time for listening to podcasts anymore.
But yeah, it's really good, like the planning side of it, and it means that you can always be like connected to your sewing when you're out as well, because obviously like I've tried, like when we visited Doug's family, I tried like bringing my sewing machine in a suitcase, and it's just
there's always something you forget as well, isn't there?
And it's just not the same. Like, you don't have your setup, you don't have your space. It's not a portable hobby like machine sewing, garment sewing. So to have it, you know, you can still browse your fabric, you can still come up with ideas, and then if you're fabric shopping as well, you can, like, you know, add things. Like, I like to add things straight away from the website, because then I can just copy their nice pictures and, you know, use the info that's already there.
Yeah, widths and all that.
Yeah. And then it feels like less overwhelming as well, because I'm just like adding them as they come in rather than being like, okay, it's Stash Hub time.
Yeah. Stash Hub time.
Yeah.
That should be a catchphrase.
It's like, feeling overwhelmed by your stash? It's Stash Hub time.
So you were saying about, like, when you do start up, does it take quite a bit of effort to initially get it on there?
I think it depends on what you want out of Stash Hub. Like, if you have a huge stash and you want to put in, like, every single piece of information and, you know, make a project for every single fabric, then yeah, it would take a long time. Like, if you're like, my goal is to do all of it now, and then you're like, oh, this is going to take too long. But if you are more like, I want to make 3 things this month, I'm going to put in the fabrics and the patterns so I can make the project.
Yeah.
It's like a sort of easier way to get going.
Sure.
And then we've also got like a bulk upload as well. So if you're a visual person and you just want to see a picture of all the fabrics that you've got, then you can just quickly add, you know, snap a picture of everything, quickly add it all. And then, you know, if you've got a long train ride or, you know, you're in a waiting room or whatever, you can sort of fill in some of the additional information as you go along. It can feel difficult to get started, but also there's no pressure to put everything in. Like,
sure. But have you had feedback from people saying that it's actually helped them buy less stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the things that we are most like excited about with the potential of Stash Hub is helping people reconnect to their stash and like fall back in love with fabrics that they've already got. Like, we've had a lot of users say, oh, you won't believe this, but I found out I have got some like new Dashwood fabric and I forgot about it. You know, people have said, I've actually not bought any fabric for the last 4 months since I downloaded Stash Hub. So that's really good to hear that people they're using their stash, they're enjoying it more because it feels more available to them because they can see it.
And you can't forget about it.
Yeah. So I don't think, I mean, people have a complicated relationship with their stash, but everyone, you know, every piece of fabric that you have bought or acquired, you have for a reason. Like, maybe you had a good idea for it, or you loved the colours, or you loved the design of it, or someone gave it to you because they thought you'd like it or thought it might be useful. So I think getting started on Stash Hub's like an opportunity to see what you've got. And then maybe if the reason you first acquired that fabric, you don't want it for those reasons anymore, maybe it's time to let go of those bits of fabric, because, you know, you don't want your stash to feel like a burden. Like, you know, to have a stash is like a privilege. It's amazing. Like, it should inspire you. And if you're feeling worried about it, then maybe, you know, you need to fall back in love with, you know, certain pieces. Like, even if a one piece at a time, you know, you go through your stash and you're like, do I want this?
I wonder if that's almost like helpful in itself. you know, you're going through your fabric collection and deciding whether or not you can be bothered to put it on Stash Hub might be almost like a filter of like, do I want to keep this? Do I want this to continue with me, or is it time to move it on possibly as well?
Yeah, exactly. And like we've partnered with Mel, who lives like locally to us, and she's running this like free workshops for local refugees to learn how to sew.
Yeah.
So she's collecting fabric donations for that, because these classes are super popular. She gets loads of people attending. So when they're there, they're just trying to make as much as they can, because these like ladies, it's mostly ladies who come. They've got nothing, and so they get to like create from scratch something that they can keep and have, but it means they get through a lot of fabric. So
and they don't have the resources themselves to procure fabric.
Exactly, so we don't, she doesn't want to get people into this hobby and then they find out it's really expensive, but so it's really, really popular, these classes.
That's wonderful. So where's that in London?
It's in Surrey, so it's like local to us, because a lot of people are like, I've gone through my stash and I found stuff and I'm not going to use it, but a lot of people, the idea of destashing it, like taking a picture of it all, thinking of a prize, posting it,
then
all
having
that,
to pack it up and post it.
It's too much. So I think to be able to, like, in one scheme, like, release that burden from the people who sew to get rid of the fabric that they're not going to use, and also to help out Mel and her refugees, because that's going to bring joy to them. So that's why we kind of got involved with that.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's just the power of the sewing community. You like meet so many people, then you find out they just live around the corner from you, and there's this amazing like schemes going on that you didn't know about. So yeah, it's really, really exciting.
So what about a thorny topic? How do you feel about the term stash?
Obviously we have used it as the brand. I feel fine about the word stash, and I think that there shouldn't be like an idea of what a stash is. Like, some people are like, my stash is too messy, my stash is too big, and you're like, there's no wrong way to have a stash. This is yours. Like, you've created this. It shouldn't be like a bad word. Like, why have you got a stash of fabric? Like, so people sew differently. If you're a person who feels burdened by having that and you don't want a stash, that's great. Buy it when you've got your project in mind and use that. But if you're a person who, they're like tactile, you like to feel the fabrics, you like to, have your collection ready for you for when you're ready to sew, then like, yeah, excellent, have your stash. You have to just create a stash that works for you, and not like some idea of a stash or how you should be sewing.
So what does your stash look like? And what's your relationship with your stash like as well?
I mean, I think my relationship with my stash is pretty good now. Like, I mean, down at the Sustainable Fair, like, we've got tablets to sort of show the app, and that's like my full stash.
Oh,
so
I'm going to go and have a look.
Yeah, it's like all out there for everyone to see. Yeah, so I feel quite fine about my stash. I am quite tight in spending money as a person, so I will only buy fabric if I really like it, which means then that my fabric collection is stuff I already like.
Oh, fantastic. Well, what are you hoping for from this event?
So we're just trying to like sort of spread the word really about Stash Hub, because I think there's a lot of people that it can be really helpful for, and also to have the in-person conversations with people, because we've got a lot of features that we add to the app all the time, and not everyone sees everything on Instagram, so they might not know that we've just started doing Notions. So if you wanted to really get into the nitty-gritty and add all your Notions.
Oh wow, so people can go deep if they want to.
Yeah, like we had so many requests for Notions, honestly. Like, I think
really, so you can add all your buttons and...
literally, like I had so much fun actually going through all my buttons, because I was like, I need to put some of mine on just so I can like share it and stuff.
I think buttons are something that is quite easy to forget what you've got as well, because I mean, fabric, it takes up more space, but buttons are often like in a drawer or in a box or a tin, and you forget really easily, I think, what you've got and how many you've got.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a rummaging scenario for the buttons, because even if you've got a storage solution, they're small. Like, also, like, at some point, like, I haven't done this myself yet, but like adding like zips and all the boring stuff, because the pattern will be like, oh, you need a 22 centimetre zip, and you're like, I've got some zips, but I don't know. Like, yeah, I think it will be useful. And also the Notion section is very customizable, so you could add anything as a Notion type, or like you could even add like sewing machine feet or like whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah, I feel I've gone a bit of a tangent with the Notions now, but yeah, also things like
no, but I can really see how that would really help you from not rebuying things that you've already got.
Yeah, for sure. And then you can add the notions to your projects as well. So, like, you know, with like the sewing labels.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they're so enticing to buy and they're so cute, but then often I forget to sew them in.
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome. Well, I hope you have a wonderful event. I hope you get to connect with loads of sewers and potential users of Stash Hub.
yes, amazing to talk to you. Thanks so much,
No
Zoe.
worries. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks.
Hello, Louise from Ethel and Joan.
Hi.
So who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Louise, not Ethel or Joan, but
What?
what?
I've been cheated.
They're named. It's named after my nans, and it was
Adorable.
their button boxes I inherited, which I used to make my original mould. So to make my buttons, which is what I do. So I make buttons and buckles and pin dishes and needle minders and jewellery and all wonderful pretty things, all by hand using resin. It's what happens when a button habit goes wrong.
So you told me you started your business by accident.
Yes. So I had some vintage buttons that I wanted more of, so I copied and made it myself. And then I used to do a show called Pattern Pals on YouTube with two of my best friends, and Barbara and Lisa. And I showed them, I made the mistake of showing them what I'd made. And they were like, this is a thing. And I was like, no. And then they were like, no, try it. And then I shared, and everyone was like, no, we want to buy them. And I
Wow.
accidentally made a business.
Right.
Accidentally.
Absolutely. Okay, so talk me through your process. How does one go about making buttons?
So I use silicone to make my moulds, and for that you need some blanks, which is what I use, and then I pour that into moulds. It sets, and then I pour the resin into that.
Right.
Take that out.
What is resin made out of?
So it's like liquid plastic.
Right.
So the two parts together, two liquids put together make a solid.
Right.
There are eco resins, but I don't use an eco resin because it doesn't wash as well. It doesn't last as
Right.
long.
So it doesn't have the longevity.
No, so the thing that I think of with buttons, it's the thing that you keep.
Absolutely.
At the end of the garment's life, you chop up. And like the buttons I'm using for my moulds, they were taken off the garments and then used again. So I choose not to use that resin because the resin I use lasts longer. But yeah, it's essentially, I do chemistry to make buttons. But yeah,
And some of your buttons, they've got little bits in them as well, haven't
Yeah.
they? How do you do that?
that's a super top treat secret.
Top secret. Shh.
But yeah, all of it's environmentally friendly. I don't use glitter because it's crazy evil. So everything
Have you
I
tried
use,
with biodegradable glitter?
yeah, but I'm just also you've got kids, I've got kids. Like glitter, like gets a chance to get anywhere. It just I've got two little girls. They sweat it, like clearing glitter anywhere.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm already an incredibly messy human being. So it's bad enough with resin, but I can only imagine what it would be like with glitter.
Glitter, yeah.
So I originally was like, oh, I don't want glitter, but I still
Yeah.
want that punch of colour.
I've bought my daughter some biodegradable glitter for like face makeup, like
Yeah.
festival stuff, and it doesn't always keep the colour. I've found that it often like the colour kind of comes away from the actual plastic or whatever it is. So I'm wondering if maybe that wouldn't necessarily have much
Maybe
longevity
not.
anyway.
I think it's like if I did get something like that, I would have to test it in terms of just checking the colour. Like some pigments, like if you leave them in the sun, they change colour and stuff like that. So it's
Right.
like all about testing.
Yeah. So who buys your buttons?
I think people that are passionate about making something unique and finishing off something well and just want something fun. I think the reason I'm drawn to copying vintage buttons is that they always have these little extra details and fun shapes, where if you get like something more modern, it tends to be more like plain.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean? It might be a jazzy pattern, but it's not, it's plain.
Yeah.
And
And
the-
often the vintage ones don't come in super cool colours.
No, so the flower buckle, that's one of my best sellers. A couple of years back, I was looking for buckles for a make, this is before I made them, and I could only find fun shapes but in ugly colours.
Yeah.
Or like
Or fun colours but in boring
in shapes, yeah, like vice versa. So when I made the buttons, which was first, I was like, I need to make buckles because it's that Mary Quant style flower buckle.
Yeah.
I think a while back people were selling them, but the vintage ones, but they were this weird pea green.
Right.
So like I've got them, but they're like all the flower colours that you want. So it's that I always say that I go for a 1920 sort of aesthetic
Right.
with most of my buttons, but with a 70s colour palette.
Nice.
So like you
And
want
a bit
that
of 80s
jazzy,
as well.
yeah, a bit of 80s, 70s. Like I just love that vintage
Yeah.
nostalgia.
I love the deco buttons that you do. I particularly love the turquoise ones.
So the decos are the first button. They're the ones that started it all. Is because I wanted
Ground
more
zero.
of those, and they're the ones, but they're my favourite.
Yeah.
Especially like something like Accident, like the sweet shards.
Yeah.
I make that by using all the scraps, so it's like a waste product button, but
Right.
it comes out so incredibly. It's one of my best sellers,
Yeah.
but it's like because it's so different.
Yeah.
But I think it's like with my customer, it's like the ones where they see it and they're like, "That's the button I've been looking for."
Oh, amazing.
Like, do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it does make a difference to your make.
Yeah,
You're going
absolutely.
to spend all this time. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Finish it well.
What about, do people sometimes buy your buttons to replace, ready-to-wear buttons?
So I do market at Brick Lane, and there's not necessarily a sewing clientele, but the people will come and they've bought the vintage coats or stuff like that, or they're wearing something and they're like, oh, no, I'm going to buy the buttons and swap it.
Brilliant.
So, but I do think I've done it to some of my garments where it's even a me made, and I've gone, I kind of don't love you anymore. But
Yeah.
and then you swap the buttons on it, and you go,
It's amazing. It really refreshes a garment. It gives it a whole new personality.
yeah, because you can also like change colour buttons. So say if you've got a print and it's got more blue in it, and you want to enhance the blue, you put a blue button. But maybe there's like a small amount of pink, and you want to enhance that. You swap it, and it makes such a difference. I can
That's
talk
really
about
cool.
buttons all day long, but
Yeah. Awesome. So what is your hopes from the So Sustainable Fair?
I would love more things like this. I think the idea that, like, the way that Sarah made this, which is like she had an idea, she's created it really well, so she had like a whole selection of like-minded businesses that she likes as well, and it's just such a nice selection.
Yeah.
And like in a chilled environment, so it's been a really lovely day, and I would love more things like this. Like,
Yeah.
as much as the big shows are great because you get a lot at once, it's nice to be at like a more created event. So you can go there and you're like, oh, I like that person, and you're going to find like 5 other people that you're going to like that, and it's been really lovely
Feels
today.
more like a community, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a bit more like the knitting shows. Like,
Right.
so the knitting, some of the smaller knitting indie shows, they're created like that, and there seems to be more of those.
Do you
Because
do
I've-
knitting shows
Yeah,
sometimes?
so I've done a couple, and I'm doing more this year, but it's also because buttons obviously is transferable. But most of the knitting shows, the small ones, are all independently run like this was. And so they get like nicely created, and you find these gems.
Yeah.
And it's a lot less daunting than the bigger shows. So you're finding gems like Brunella Fabrics. It's her first. Sorry if I said the name wrong, but it's Tanya's first show, and she's never done one. But like something like this for her was less scary.
Absolutely.
And her fabrics were incredible. Like,
Yeah.
it looks great, but it's like something like that, like a smaller one like this, more petite. It's less scary, so you're going to get some things you've never seen before. So yeah, I would love more like this. Like, it would be really cool.
Absolutely. Have you made any purchases today?
Yes, I have. I bought some gorgeous vintage fabrics from multiple places, and then my mum's had a little shop, so she bought some patterns and stuff, so it's been really lovely.
Aww.
But I try not to look away from the stand, but probably by the end, when everyone's sort of clearing out, I'll probably purchase a couple more things. But yeah, it's a bit dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's really put my lasso standing commitment to the test,
Yeah.
especially seeing your stall. But I did just buy some earrings from you.
You were tempted.
So I feel good about that.
Bring
Brilliant.
it.
Well, I look forward to seeing you at more events.
Oh, thank you.
Well, there we go. That was the So Sustainable Fair. I'm standing on a wharf, which is what all this noise is about. Like a kind of metal pier thing, which is bobbing up and down in the river whilst I wait for my boat to go back to London Bridge. Well, that was an amazing event. That was so lovely. I got to speak to loads of really lovely people. Bit worried that my handheld recorder has lost all the conversations, but let's keep our fingers crossed and be optimistic that that hasn't happened. Met loads of really nice people, had some great conversations, managed to get a lot of them recorded, but also had loads of other really nice conversations with other people as well, both visitors and other stall holders. I really hope that there are more of those, not just in London, but everywhere. More things that have sustainability at their core related to sewing. I'm really tired. I don't have any wisdom other than more of that. Sarah did a great job organising it. It was really sweet, really welcoming. A lovely selection of interesting businesses, trying to do good stuff. Lovely. All right. Speak soon. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!